And here we go with the Jacksonville Jaguars under Wade Phillips. They made the playoffs last year, largely due to the role of David Carr, who in my franchise is quite the quarterback. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Texans, and he has had a lot of good seasons. I mean, there's sometimes he's had some weak ones, some positive ones. In some ways, David Carr is kind of like my league's Joe Flacco, where he's won a Super Bowl. Was it the team? Was it him? Is he elite? That's typically my David Carr, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm going to move on from him and he's going to be out of the league. And other times I think, well, he's close to winning another Super Bowl. So he's the Jaguars quarterback moving forward. They do have Brian Braun. They drafted in 2008 in the second round. He never really turned out to be anything. And they drafted Zach Robinson in this year's draft. They do have Marion Barber, who was a top rusher last year, despite being only a 66 overall. They also have Bernard Scott and Ernest Graham. Receivers are not even that great, but Carr did what he had to do with the receivers he had, with Hakeem Nicks, Limas Swede, Cooper, Harry Douglas, Osgood. We'll see if this receiving core is able to keep up. And now let's look at the offensive line, where Kwame Harris, who was their first-round pick back in 2003, is getting older. He's not as bad as he was in real life. He's just been mediocre, which mediocre is enough for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have Sean Andrews, who was formerly with the Baltimore Ravens. Sandlin, Fonodi, Justin Smith, Jason Smith, excuse me. Jason Smith was the third overall pick in last year's draft at right tackle. Similar fate as Kwame Harris. He's probably going to be the starter for a bit, but he's probably not going to carry on too long. Then there's, I believe it's Dominique Byrd. Let me double check here. Because they do have Anthony Hill, Dante Rosario. Let me see if I can find. Well, I think it's Dominic Byrd. I think he was signed this one of the recent off seasons. So Jaguars were a decent run team with Barber, despite his overall. So they'll probably stick with that running game, with David Carr being the game manager that he is, making the plays when he has to. As for the defense, we see John Henderson starting to get some age on him. He's still an 86 overall, very solid. He's still going to be there for a while. Chris Long and Darryl Tapp, both good pass rushers. Senderic Marks, interior line. The anchor of their entire defense is Patrick Willis, one that probably a player that should have or could have gone to a better profile team than the Jaguars, because Jaguars normally don't have that many great players, but he was the fourth overall pick in 2007, and I decided to allow the Jaguars to have a gem, and that gem is Willis. Takeo Spikes and Pisa Tinoui on the outside, some older linebackers there, going to need some young legs maybe in the future. Then there's Donta Robinson, the second-round pick in 2004. He has been doing a very good job with his career, 86 overall. Travis Fisher signed this past offseason. We see Kyle Arrington, Patrick Robinson, so some decent cornerbacks there. We look at Smith, that strong safety. They do have Nate Allen. They drafted in this year's draft in the first round. There's Jason Allen, who is the free safety. So we're looking at a defense that has some decent pieces, better front seven, maybe more than their DBs, but definitely a team that has the right pieces to make a good run. We see under special teams, Chris Henson and Nick Folk taking up the special teamers. So let me know if you think the Jaguars are just a one-hit wonder, or if they're just going to go back to their regular nonsense, or are they going to be a regular competitive team moving forward? Let me know your thoughts.